you both mentioned as well the importance of finding good staff. It's a common problem that I hear a lot of operators have, is finding the right staff that they can trust and that will stay with them for a long time. So I'd be interested in knowing both of your methods for finding the good staff members that you can rely on.
Yeah, so for us, it's definitely been a journey. We when we first started and we're trying to find this sort of catch-all GM that could kind of do it all, fix it. We had one FTE besides for cleaners, and it needed to be live on site. And at that time, we were trying to find someone that was doing RV or van life and wanted to do hookups and do that. And that got us through the first year and a half. But as we started to scale and grow and offer more experiences, and we're trying to up our hospitality even a bit, we sort of outgrew that model and had to level up, had to get real about salaries. And really the biggest thing is we now provide on-site housing. So for all of our new properties, we have 2 one-bedroom apartments that are really nice. I mean, finished out similarly to the units. And that helps us attract from a broader regional demographic. We don't have to worry about people having to drive to and from the site. It's a nice perk. And then their salaries are still pretty close to in line with other GMs and maintenance managers, plus they get free housing. So that's been a strong selling point for us. And I think one of the big things too that's only really happened in the past year and a half is me becoming more prominent on social media and like putting more out there, building an audience, building a fan base. So when we're out there looking for a hire, maybe they already know me and that's how we kind of bring them into the funnel. Or if they don't, they see the job and then they look me up or they look up the properties and, the podcasts I've been on and whatnot. And if they believe in, the vision that I have and the passion that I have, then like they're excited about the opportunity and there's not a lot of work required in kind of transferring vision and passion because they already know what it is and they're already bought in.
Your big thing is it's like building in public, right? That's what you call it, where there's that different level of connection with that people have with your business, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I have to say, like, I didn't set out to be the face of this at all. It was one of those things that my team pushed me to do because it's so effective for other folks like Isaac French at Live Oak Lake and Devin Lurup at Pacific Bend. Like we saw, really great examples in this unique stay hospitality space. The Bolts with Bolt Farm Treehouse of like the founders being up front and center. So we started doing that and it's really been very effective in hiring, in recruiting clients for Awasi, for our marketing services and hotel management services and design build services. So yeah, it's been really helpful, and it's nice too because I look at it like I'm doing it for my team, not for myself. So it makes it easier to kind of put myself out there.
And imagine, Irene, that was your model. I'm sure you've touched every single aspect of your own property. You were front and center from the beginning, right? That was it.
Yeah, it was interesting. About year 2, I did a shift though. And here was the reason. Guests would show up wanting to meet. I'm sure, Ben, you feel this too. It's like, oh, I got to see the owner. And if I wasn't there, it was like somehow they bought the stay because Irene was there. And I was like, that is not scalable. That is not scalable. That is not scalable. We have got to find a different way because the stay can't be dependent on if Irene's roaming the camp with her dogs. It has to be dependent on what are we delivering and how are we delivering it. And so I remember very vividly year 2 going, like, particularly COVID, I was on site every day, right? That was like such a unique time. Employees were terrified. You were getting tons of reservations. But I think it was right after that, I was like, I would get calls at home, like, there's guests on here. They want to know, are you coming in today? And I thought, oh man, this is no good. This is no good. So I was like, I've got to make a shift so that this business can grow without Irene. And there's only so much energy you can give to your team and then to your guests. And because different than Ben, we're so high touch, that expectation was like, is she going to turn down my bed? Is she going to be here for coffee? It's like, I've created a monster. I got to get myself out of this, whirlwind.
So did you shift the focus to your staff?
No, we actually did it. If you looked at some of the social media, it was like, what are you going to be doing when you're here? What are you going to be seeing when you're here versus people? So lots of like no named people. So you could picture yourself in it, to just kind of remove from that, because that was, it was actually kind of funny. It was weird. It was like one of those moments. I came home from my husband. I was like, wow, that was weird. These are weird phone calls. So anyway, but yeah, we're now past that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can let your GM be that person. I mean, that's what other owners have done to me. They're like, no,
Yeah.
you're that person, right? It doesn't have to be me. Um,
Yeah.
so, like, let your property manager be that. I would be interested, Ben, is your property manager also working as your like overnight on call, right? Camp host, if you will, and then follow up to Irene. Do you have a camp host?
So Awasi, handles a lot of the management and guest communications associated with the property. So they're fielding, late night messages and calls and things like that. But yes, our on-site live-on staff are the folks that are also handling, emergencies off hours. Um, and we do have part-time people that come in and like we'll relieve them so they can, get away for a couple days and that sort of thing. But yeah, with our size and scale, the people that are on site are also, handling emergencies that require on site help.
Like raccoons?
We spoke about raccoons 2 weeks ago.
They would be, yes, but that has not come up, thankfully. We've had some scorpions, but not
Ugh.
raccoons.
Irene, how's your overnight raccoon patrol going at camp? What's your model for that?
So what we do is we had 2 years somebody stay on site overnight. And so we've collected 5 years of data and we're now on year 6. And I'm going to knock on wood. We've only had 2 calls in that duration. So we have staff because we do dinners that last till 11. We have staff usually there till 12 to do cleanup, do a final walkthrough of camp, put everybody to bed. But we've only had 3 calls in 6 years. So last year was the first time we just have, so we have a little bit of different model, employment model. So everybody that works at camp is local. And they've been with us for 6 years and they all live within like a 3-mile vicinity of camp. So we just have phone forwarding. So if a guest calls, the first person that picks up gets the call and goes in. And it's usually me. But I would tell you, I think we've trained our guests really well. We have a very tidy camp that doesn't have any crazy stuff. There's enough movement on there over the last 6 years that we don't have animals that concern people. Most of the stuff that shows up, like the last one was a girl had gotten something in her eye at the beach and it was like scraping her eye and she needed a ride to the to the hospital because that was one. And then the other one was the middle of the night. There was a fire alarm that was going off. And it's high, it's at the 14-foot level. So somebody has to come in and take a look at that for reasons of people just knocking them off and there really being a concern. But yeah, we're really lucky.
Oh my gosh, I do not understand how. Like I think we were taking like 3 overnight calls a day. No, to be honest, maybe it's different markets, different strokes for different folks. I mean, I think it's like,
Those 10 rows that you had must have got too excited, Jacob.
I have no idea. I mean, it was just, we got called about everything. I mean, our camp hosts were busy. I mean, we had quiet hours start at 10, right? And then we would do dinners on pop-ups and things like that and special events, which would go further. But like from 10 to like 6 in the morning, it was like camp hosts' phone, right? Like they had their own phone dedicated for guests and everyone had that on their check-in materials. But it was like, yeah, I think it's a different market. I think it just goes to the guests. I mean, I feel like we had a very tidy operation. There wasn't a lot of ambiguity. We had a lot of returning guests, but I think part of the Mendocino Grove model is, yeah, you could get service at any time of the night and a real person to show up. And, we had to budget for that expense, but it was a lot of raccoons, right? It's a lot of, you can tell guests not to bring food into their tent, but ultimately food would be left there, so it was a more animal related, but also like, can you come restart my fire at my fire pit? And everything in between. So noisy neighbor.
Yeah. We have we do fires like we call them our little fire valets.
Same. Yep.
But by 11, and this is how we've conditioned them is, all right guys, are you all set here? Okay, we're headed out. If it's an emergency, you have the phone number. Otherwise, we'll see you in the morning for breakfast.
I think it's also because we had 72 units. There's got to
Oh,
be
sure.
a breaking point of
Yeah.
like occupancy to like number of
Yes.
requests. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we have 24.
Ben, overnight staff, you guys aren't getting a lot of calls. and it seems like it's not coming up on your review of lack of service. So obviously you're messaging out of that pretty well.
Yeah, I really think that people today, I know having somebody on site and being able to like, come to the unit if needed is crucial. And we do have that ability if needed. But just having somebody that can answer the phone very quickly or like answer a message very quickly and kind of reassure somebody that like, sometimes it's dumb questions, as you know, Jacob, right? It's not like stuff that requires somebody on staff. It's like, I don't know how to use the thermostat or something like that. And our offshore team can fully handle those kind of requests. And I just think the speed at which we respond, because we have that 24/7 offshore team, really like assuages a lot of concerns and makes guests feel like safe and secure. And if we need to, emergency dial our on-site staff so that they can go over to the guest, we can, but it very, very rarely happens, similar to Irene's experience, I would say.
Like ours was more like visiting your family member's house so that you could just knock on that person's bedroom door if you wanted something from the fridge. I mean, honestly, listening to you guys, I'm like, hope none of the people I've worked for in the past hear this, because I'm always heavy on the labor, always heavy on the overnight, always heavy, and like spent 6 years saying, no, we need this. To have it all undone in the last 20 minutes is really exciting for my operating background. So thank you for that, both of you.